The knife went into Felix Hahn's stomach at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and his last thought was that he'd never paid his mother back. He was 30 years old, dying in an alley behind a convenience store over a wallet that held $12 and a maxed-out credit card. The mugger's face was blurred by rain and fading consciousness, but Felix could see his own reflection in a puddle, pathetic, broke, alone. His mother had died 3 years ago in a county hospital, buried in a pauper's grave because Felix couldn't afford anything better. She'd worked herself to death at that laundromat while he'd failed at every job, every opportunity, every chance to be the son she deserved. The puddle turned red. Everything went black. Then Felix opened his eyes and Mr. Rowan was teaching supply and demand curves. His breath caught. The whiteboard. The classroom. Maya Chen sitting next to him with her blue hair clip, taking notes in perfect handwriting. His hands were 18 again, smooth and unscarred. His phone buzzed, an iPhone 5. The date on the screen read April 15, 2013. Felix's heart exploded in his chest. 12 years. He'd gone back 12 years. The memories crashed through him like a tsunami, every stock that soared, every crypto that mooned, every real estate boom, every startup that became a giant, every market crash, every economic shift from 2013 to 2025. Perfect clarity. Perfect recall. 12 years of future knowledge sitting in his 18-year-old brain. His hands started shaking. His mother was alive. Still working 60-hour weeks at Chen's laundromat on 5th Street, still healthy, still 2 years away from the diagnosis that would start her slow death. Felix's throat closed. He had a second chance. A chance to save her. A chance to rewrite everything. But he had the same crushing poverty. The same absent father. The same $63 in his bank account. The same life that had led to a knife in an alley. Not this time. The bell rang and Felix stood on legs that remembered being stabbed, walked through halls he'd failed in before, and felt something cold and sharp crystallize in his chest. He wasn't the scared kid anymore. He was a 30-year-old man with 12 years of future knowledge and nothing left to lose. Today was April 15, 2013. Bitcoin was trading at $266. In 3 days it would crash to 50. In 8 months it would hit 1,000. Felix's entire life was about to change. He skipped lunch and went straight to the library, claimed a corner computer, and started building his empire with shaking hands and perfect memory. The crypto exchanges were primitive, Mt. Gox, Coinbase, Bitstamp, but they worked. Creating accounts took 40 minutes. Verification would take 3 days he didn't have. Felix pulled out his phone and texted Daniel Park, the quiet coding genius who would drop out of MIT in 5 years to build a company worth $340 million. Right now Daniel was just his friend who helped with computer science homework. Need a favor. Can you buy something online for me? We'll pay you back triple. Response in 30 seconds, what is it? Bitcoin. $60 worth. I'll explain everything. 10 minutes later Daniel walked into the library looking confused. Felix spent the next hour explaining cryptocurrency to someone who'd never heard of it, watching Daniel's eyes light up with the same fascination that would eventually make him a tech millionaire. Daniel had a verified PayPal account linked to his bank account for his small web design business. Perfect. You want me to spend $60 on digital money that might be worthless? Daniel said. It'll be worth $180 in 2 weeks. Trust me. Something in Felix's voice cut through the absurdity. Daniel stared at him for 5 long seconds, then slowly opened his laptop and navigated to Coinbase. The purchase went through at $263 per coin. Felix now owned 0.228 Bitcoin. In 3 days it would be worth $11. In 8 weeks it would be worth $1,800. Felix walked out of the library with $3 left in his account and a mind full of calculated moves. The Bitcoin was just the foundation. The real money came from timing the crash, buying more at 50, then riding it back up. But he needed capital fast. Apple earnings call was in 6 days and would spike the stock 13%. A pharmaceutical company called Immunex was trading at $4.17, 6 weeks from FDA approval that would send it to 89. Tesla Motors was at $9, years away from proving every analyst wrong. Felix had lived through all of it once. This time he'd be on the right side of every move. That night he came home to his childhood bedroom, peeling wallpaper, cramped space, thin walls, and heard his mother's laugh from downstairs. Alive. Healthy. Watching her game shows like she had every night before the sickness took her piece by piece. Felix sat on his bed and let himself cry for the first time since the knife. Then he opened his laptop and began documenting everything. Stock movements. Crypto surges. Real estate patterns. Tech startups. Political events that moved markets. Product launches that changed industries. Every piece of future knowledge went into an encrypted file, organized by date and profit potential. He worked until his eyes burned. His mother knocked on the door at midnight. "Felix? You okay, baby?" "Yeah, Mom." His voice cracked. "Just studying. Don't stay up too late. You work too hard." If she only knew. In another timeline he hadn't worked hard enough, hadn't been smart enough, hadn't saved her. This time would be different. Monday morning Felix saw a flyer in the hallway. Maya's cousin needed weekend moving help, $15 an hour, cash. He texted Maya immediately. She responded with the address and a smiley face. 4 hours Saturday, 4 hours Sunday. $240 total. Not enough, but a start. Bitcoin hit 203 on Monday. 156 on Tuesday. 68 on Wednesday. The crash was perfectly on schedule, panic exactly as Felix remembered. His phone buzzed constantly with texts from Daniel. "Dude, we lost everything. It's crashing. Should I sell?" Felix typed back with steady hands. "Hold. Don't sell. Trust me. It's going to zero. It's going to 1,000 by November. Hold." 3 dots appeared and disappeared 4 times before Daniel responded, "You're insane." Maybe. But Felix had died in an alley with $12. Insane was an upgrade. Thursday, Bitcoin bottomed at $50 exactly. Felix used his $240 from moving jobs to buy 4.8 Bitcoin through Daniel's account. His entire net worth was now tied to digital currency most people thought was a scam, about to begin the most explosive growth in financial history. By December those coins would be worth $4,800. By 2021 they'd peak at $315,000. But Felix wasn't holding that long. He had bigger moves planned. Friday the moving company called with emergency overnight work, office relocation downtown, double pay because the client was desperate. Felix worked 16 hours straight, back screaming, hands blistered, his 18-year-old body struggling with labor his 30-year-old mind remembered as brutal. He made $480. Saturday morning he opened a trading account using fake information and Daniel's help with verification. The compliance systems in 2013 were laughably weak. The account cleared by Monday. Immunex was trading at $4.31. Felix bought 111 shares for $478.41, leaving $1.59 in his account. FDA approval was May 28. The stock would open at 89 the next morning. His 478 would become 9,879 overnight. But 6 weeks was too long. He needed faster plays. Apple earnings were Tuesday. Record iPhone 5 sales would demolish estimates and gap the stock up 13% at open. Felix had $1.59 and no options margin. He needed a different angle. Monday after school he found Daniel in the library coding an automation script. "I need you to do something that sounds crazy," Felix said. Daniel looked up. "Crazier than Bitcoin at 263? "Different crazy." Felix showed him the numbers on paper. "Apple earnings are tomorrow after close. Max out your PayPal credit and buy shares before the call." Daniel's eyes went wide. "That's $2,000. It'll be $2,260 by Wednesday. You clear $260 in 2 days. How do you know?" Felix met his eyes. The truth sat on his tongue. "I died and came back, I've lived this before, I know everything," but he swallowed it. Research. Deep research. Same way I knew Bitcoin would crash and recover. The library hummed with computer fans. Daniel studied Felix's face for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "If this works, you're teaching me everything. Deal." Tuesday evening Felix sat in his bedroom listening to the Apple earnings call stream, his heart rate steady despite having his friend's 2,000 on the line. The CFO droned through numbers, revenue up 23%, iPhone sales crushing estimates, guidance raised, and after-hours trading spiked from 262 to 281 in real time. Wednesday morning the stock opened at 295. Daniel sold at 296.50, clearing 265 after fees. His text came at 9:47 a.m. "What just happened?" Felix smiled. "Told you." "How did you know?" "Research." 5 minutes passed before the next text. "Teach me. Please. I'll split whatever we make." Felix stared at his phone. Daniel was brilliant, loyal, and would eventually build a $340 million company alone. Exactly the partner Felix needed. But partnerships required trust and his advantage only worked in secret. Still, the opportunities coming were too big to execute alone. 60-40 split, Felix typed. "I call plays, you handle technical execution. And you never ask how I know. Deal." Felix now had a partner, 265 in capital, 4.8 Bitcoin climbing in value, and 111 Immunex shares waiting to explode. His net worth had gone from $63 to approximately $1,200 in 2 weeks. But the real move was still coming. Maya texted Thursday, "My dad wants to sell old camera equipment. Says you're smart with computers. Can you help him list it online?" Felix's breath stopped. Maya's father had vintage film cameras in his garage worth maybe $400 to casual buyers. But Felix knew vintage camera prices were about to explode with hipster culture. More importantly, Mr. Chen had a Leica M6 worth $1,800 that he didn't know about. In Felix's first life, these cameras sat in that garage 3 more years before being donated to Goodwill. A collector bought the Leica for $35 and resold it for $1,600. "Not this time. I'll come look Friday," Felix texted back. Friday after school, Felix stood in Maya's garage surrounded by dust and missed opportunities. Mr. Chen showed him the boxes with quiet pride, a man who'd loved photography and was ready to let it go. "Just want them to go to someone who'll use them," Mr. Chen said. "Whatever's fair." Felix's hands trembled as he picked up the Leica. "I can list these for you or buy them outright and save the hassle. I have a friend who collects cameras." Mr. Chen's eyebrows rose. "You want to buy them?" $500 cash for everything. More than Mr. Chen expected, less than a third of true value. Mr. Chen glanced at Maya watching from the doorway, then nodded. "Deal." Felix withdrew $500 from his trading account and walked out with $4,000 in equipment. He spent the weekend photographing, researching collector forums, listing on eBay with clinical precision. The Leica sold in 3 days for $1,750. The rest moved over 2 weeks for $2,100. Account balance, $4,115. Felix's mind was already 3 steps ahead. Immunex approval was May 28. Bitcoin climbing back toward 100. But the biggest opportunity was weeks away, a real estate play that would turn thousands into hundreds of thousands. The Riverside district was a half-abandoned industrial zone, bottomed property values, high crime, nobody with money going near it. But in July the city council would announce massive redevelopment, subsidized housing, commercial rezoning, new metro station. Property values would triple overnight. Felix needed to own Riverside property before July. Which meant $20,000 for a down payment and 4 months to get it. Monday morning Liam Everett cornered him in the hallway. "Rich kid. Heir to the Everett real estate empire that owned half the city. Heard you're flipping cameras," Liam said casually, eyes sharp. "Making money on the side?" Felix met his gaze without flinching. In his first life he would have looked away, mumbled, let Liam's threat slide. But he'd died once. High school bullies didn't scare him. Just helping people sell stuff. "Right." Liam smiled without warmth. "Don't forget where you come from, Han. Nobody likes a climber." Felix walked away cataloging the interaction. Liam's family was quietly accumulating Riverside properties before the announcement. They'd make $15 million on that play. This time Felix would beat them to it. May 28 arrived like clockwork. Immunex announced FDA approval at 6:47 a.m. Stock halted for volatility, exploded to $89.50 at open. Felix sold all shares at $88.75, clearing $98.51 after fees. Account balance, $13,966. Daniel's text, "Holy cow dude." Felix smiled. They were getting started. He withdrew $10,000 for a second account under Daniel's name, spreading risk, avoiding attention. The remaining $39.66 went into his highest conviction play. Tesla Motors. $9.12 per share. Pre-split. Bleeding money, production delays, analysts calling bankruptcy. But Felix had watched Elon prove everyone wrong for 12 years. Model S would revolutionize everything. Tesla would hit 400, split, climb past 1,000. He bought 434 shares at $9.14. By 2021 they'd be worth $347,000. But Felix had bigger plans than holding. June brought summer heat and new opportunities. Moving jobs during the day, market research at night, building capital through careful flips. Factory second electronics bought for $800, sold for $24. Storage unit auction furniture bought for $300, sold for $18. Every dollar fed the machine. By July 1 combined accounts held $23,400. Riverside announcement scheduled for July 18. Felix spent 2 weeks walking Riverside after dark, cataloging properties, researching ownership, identifying targets. Abandoned warehouses for $35,000. Row houses for $15. Commercial lots for $8. All about to explode. He found a duplex at 847 Riverside Avenue, 2 units, both vacant, structurally sound but cosmetically destroyed. Elderly owner wanted it gone. Asking $18,000. Felix offered 15 cash, closing in 1 week. Accepted. He drained both accounts, used Daniel's father as cosigner because he was 18, became a property owner 7 days before the announcement. July 18, 6 p.m., the news hit. Riverside Redevelopment Initiative. $50 million in public investment. New metro station. Commercial rezoning. Tax incentives. Real estate alert buzzed his phone, duplex now valued at $52,000. $37,000 profit in 8 hours. But Felix wasn't selling. By 2015 that duplex would hit 180. By 2018, 340. He sat in his bedroom and breathed. His mother hummed downstairs making dinner, healthy and alive and unaware her son just secured their future. Liquid capital, $8,400. Bitcoin, $11,500. Tesla shares, $4,200. Riverside duplex, $52,000. Total net worth, approximately $76,000. From $63 to 6 figures in 3 months. And he was just getting started. His phone buzzed. Maya, saw Riverside News. That's near where you bought property, right? Felix's stomach dropped. He'd never told her. How did you know I bought property? My dad handles county tax records. Your name came up. He thought it was cool you're investing so young. People were noticing. Mr. Chen. Soon the Everetts. Corporate investors. Anyone watching unusual Riverside activity. He needed to be more careful. Just a small investment, he typed. Trying to build something. I think it's amazing. Most people our age work minimum wage. You're building wealth. Her words hit different than intended. In his first life he'd been most people. Minimum wage. Missing opportunities. Dying broke in an alley. Want coffee tomorrow? Maya wrote. I want to hear your strategy. Felix hesitated. Getting close was dangerous with secrets to protect. But Maya had already noticed. Shutting her out might make her more suspicious. Yeah. Tomorrow works. That night Felix updated his encrypted document with new projections. The duplex was foundation. He needed to move faster, scale bigger, build an empire that made him untouchable before anyone figured out how he kept winning. Next play was already forming, a tech startup launching September that would become billion-dollar company by 2016. He had $8,400 in capital. Needed $50,000 before the investment window opened. More trades. More flips. More calculated risks. He pulled up stock charts, memory serving exact dates and percentages like database queries. Pharmaceutical merger in August spiking 3 stocks. Tech acquisition in September cratering 1 company, launching another. Real estate trust about to implode from fraud. Every disaster was opportunity. Every boom was payday. Felix worked until 3 a.m. building his roadmap, fell asleep with laptop open and dreams of his mother's smile when he told her she'd never work again. Outside his window city lights flickered like promises, and across town Liam Everett was learning about the Riverside deal his family missed, wondering who beat them to it. The game had begun. Felix Hahn held every card. And this time, nobody was putting a knife in him ever again. Felix noticed the black sedan on a Thursday. Same car, same tinted windows, parked 3 houses down from his place for the 3rd day in a row. Different times, morning, afternoon, evening, but always there. Always watching. He walked past it on his way to the bus stop, kept his pace casual, didn't look directly at it. His reflection in a storefront window showed the sedan pulling out 30 seconds after he turned the corner. Not paranoia. Surveillance. His phone buzzed. Daniel, dude, someone called my dad asking about our business partnership. Said they were from a financial research firm. Felix's blood went cold. He stepped into a coffee shop, claimed a corner table, and called Daniel immediately. What exactly did they ask? Questions about how we met, what kind of investments we're making together, where the capital came from. Daniel's voice was tight. My dad told them to fuck off, but Felix. Who are these people? I don't know yet. Lie. Felix knew exactly who they were. Did they leave a name? Company? Everett Capital Partners. Mean anything to you? Everything. It meant everything. Felix ended the call and sat very still, mind racing through scenarios. The Everetts had resources he couldn't match, private investigators, legal teams, political connections. If they decided he was a threat, they could bury him a dozen different ways. Freeze his accounts. Tie him up in litigation. Make his life hell until he folded. Or worse. He pulled up his encrypted files and started running damage control protocols he'd hoped never to use. The duplex was in his name, public record, couldn't hide it. But the stock accounts could be obscured. Daniel's name on one account was already helpful. He needed more separation, more layers. His mother's laugh drifted from the kitchen at home that evening. She was making dumplings, her Thursday ritual, humming along to a cooking show. Felix watched her from the doorway, healthy, alive, completely unaware her son had painted a target on their backs. If the Everetts dug deep enough, they'd find her. Find the laundromat. Find every pressure point Felix couldn't afford to expose. He had to move carefully. Friday morning Felix dressed in his best thrift store button-down and took the bus downtown. The Everett Capital Partners office occupied floors 12 through 15 of the Meridian Tower, glass and steel and quiet power. He walked past it twice, studying security, exits, patterns. Then he went to the library and spent 4 hours researching everything public about Charles Everett. Real estate empire worth $800 million. Started from family money but multiplied it through aggressive acquisitions and perfect timing. Married twice, divorced once. 3 kids, Liam the oldest, then 2 daughters at boarding schools back east. Donated to conservative politicians and business-friendly causes. Served on the city development board. The Riverside deal would have made him $15 million. Felix had cost him that. No wonder Charles was digging. Felix's phone buzzed with a number he didn't recognize. He almost didn't answer, then thought better of it. Felix Hahn? A woman's voice, professional and cold. Who's asking? My name is Jennifer Torres. I work for Everett Capital Partners. Mr. Everett would like to meet with you to discuss a potential opportunity. Felix's grip tightened on the phone. What kind of opportunity? He'd prefer to discuss it in person. Are you available Monday at 10 a.m.? Every instinct screamed trap. But refusing might make things worse. And part of Felix, the part that had died in an alley and come back angry, wanted to look Charles Everett in the eye and see what he was dealing with. I have school Monday. I'm sure you can miss one morning. This could be very beneficial for you. Translation: refuse and we make your life difficult. Monday at 10, Felix said. I'll be there. The call ended. Felix sat in the library staring at his phone, pulse hammering. He had 3 days to prepare for a meeting that could determine whether his second chance ended before it really began. Saturday he liquidated half his Tesla position, 217 shares at $9.63, clearing $2,100 after fees. It hurt to sell, knowing those shares would eventually be worth hundreds of thousands. But he needed liquid capital for what came next. He opened 2 new trading accounts under Shell LLC's Daniel helped him establish, one in Delaware, one in Nevada. Transferred funds in amounts designed to avoid reporting thresholds. The 2013 financial system was still loose enough that 18-year-olds with decent fake documentation could slip through cracks. By Sunday night Felix had his assets scattered across 6 different accounts, 3 different names, and 2 different states. Not invisible, but harder to track. Harder to freeze all at once if the Everetts decided to play hardball. His mother knocked on his door at midnight. Baby? You okay? You've been stressed all weekend. Just school stuff, Mom. Big test coming up. She studied his face with the X-ray vision mothers develop, then kissed his forehead. Don't work too hard. You're 18. You should be having fun. If she only knew. In another timeline he'd had plenty of fun, partying, slacking off, failing at everything that mattered. This timeline he was building an empire and dodging billionaires. I'll try, Mom. Promise. After she left, Felix pulled up everything he knew about the meeting Monday. The Everetts would try to intimidate him, figure out his angle, maybe make an offer designed to either buy him off or expose his methods. He needed to be careful, reveal nothing, and walk out with his secrets intact. But there was another play. Charles Everett was ruthless, but he was also greedy. If Felix could make himself useful instead of threatening, if he could position himself as an asset rather than a competitor, maybe he could turn this interrogation into an opportunity. It was risky. But everything about his second chance was risky. Felix worked until 4 a.m. building his pitch, fell asleep with his laptop open and dreams of cold boardrooms and colder men who crushed people like him without thinking twice. Monday morning Felix wore his only decent clothes, khakis from Goodwill, button-down from his mother's ironing pile, shoes he'd owned since sophomore year. He looked exactly like what he was, a broke kid pretending to belong in a world of money. Perfect. The Meridian Tower lobby was all marble and intimidation. Felix gave his name to security, got a visitor badge, and took the elevator to 14. His reflection in the polished doors showed someone who'd died once and come back. That had to count for something. Jennifer Torres met him in the reception area, 30s, sharp suit, eyes that missed nothing. Mr. Hahn. Thank you for coming. Follow me. They walked through halls lined with modern art and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Felix cataloged everything: cameras, security access points, employee density. Information was survival. Charles Everett's office was corner suite, panoramic views, furniture worth more than Felix's mother made in 5 years. The man himself stood by the windows, mid-50s, silver hair, tailored suit, the kind of face that smiled at shareholders while crushing competitors. Felix Hahn. Charles turned, extending a hand. "Thank you for meeting with me." Felix shook it. Firm grip, measuring pressure. "You said there was an opportunity. Sit. Please." Charles gestured to a leather chair that probably cost $3,000. Jennifer took position by the door, not sitting, just watching. Felix noted that detail. "I'll be direct," Charles said, settling behind his desk like a king on a throne. "You're 18 years old with no family wealth, no financial background, and no business experience. Yet in 3 months you've made a series of investments that would impress a seasoned trader. Bitcoin right before the crash. Immunex before FDA approval. Riverside property 1 week before the announcement." He smiled without warmth. "That's either the luckiest streak in history, or you have information sources I'd very much like to understand." Felix kept his face neutral. "I do research. Read a lot. Got lucky on timing." "Luck?" Charles leaned back. "Let me tell you about luck, Felix. Luck happens once. Maybe twice if you're exceptional. But 6 consecutive winning trades? Property acquisition timed perfectly to a development announcement?" He shook his head. "That's not luck. That's insider information." The accusation hung in the air like a blade. Felix met Charles's eyes without flinching. "I don't have insider information. I just pay attention to patterns." "Patterns?" Charles pulled out a folder, opened it with deliberate care. "Let's discuss patterns. You bought Immunex 6 weeks before FDA approval. The approval timeline wasn't public knowledge. You purchased Riverside property using cash you shouldn't have had, 1 week before an announcement made by a city council whose meetings are closed door." He slid a paper across the desk. "You're either phenomenally gifted, or you're committing securities fraud." Felix's pulse spiked but his voice stayed level. "Or I'm good at research and took calculated risks. At 18. Age doesn't determine intelligence." Charles studied him for a long moment, then laughed, a short, sharp sound without humor. "You've got balls, kid. I'll give you that." He closed the folder. "Here's my problem. You beat me to Riverside. That property was part of a larger play my company had been positioning for 6 months. You walked in blind and snatched it from under me. I didn't know it was your target. But you knew it would appreciate." "How?" Felix made a split-second decision. The truth was impossible to explain. The lie had to be good enough to satisfy a predator. "My mother works at a laundromat near City Hall. Politicians use it. I overheard conversations about Riverside redevelopment. Looked into it. Made a move." He shrugged. "Wrong place, right time." Charles's expression didn't change but his eyes sharpened. "Your mother's a laundromat worker?" "Yes. And you're building wealth to take care of her?" "Yes." Silence stretched. Jennifer shifted by the door. Felix kept his breathing steady, his face calm, while his mind screamed that he'd just exposed his biggest weakness to a man who specialized in finding pressure points. Then Charles smiled, different this time, almost respectful. "All right. Let's say I believe you got lucky hearing a conversation. What's your plan now? Keep making miraculous trades until the SEC notices? Buy more property until bigger players squeeze you out?" He leaned forward. "You're smart, Felix, but you're small. Eventually someone's going to crush you. Unless I have protection." "Exactly." Charles's smile widened. "I'm prepared to offer you a position. Junior analyst. Real salary. Access to legitimate deal flow. And in exchange, you share your research methods with my team." There it was. The trap wrapped in opportunity. Take the job, give up his edge, become controlled. Refuse, and Charles would make sure Felix's winning streak ended through legal warfare or market manipulation. Felix pretended to consider it, let 5 seconds pass, then shook his head. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to keep working independently." Charles's smile vanished. "That's a mistake." "Maybe. But it's mine to make. You understand I could make your life very difficult. I understand you could try." Felix stood, keeping his movements calm. "But if you crush every smart kid who beats you to a deal, eventually you're just surrounded by yes men and missed opportunities." He met Charles's eyes. "I'm not your enemy. I'm just someone who saw an opening and took it. Same as you did when you were starting out." The comparison hit its mark. Charles's jaw tightened fractionally, the first real emotion Felix had seen break through the calculated facade. "You've got guts," Charles said quietly. "Stupid guts, but guts." Let me give you some free advice, Felix Hahn. This city has rules. The people with money make them. The people without money follow them. When someone like you disrupts that order, the system corrects itself. Violently, if necessary. I'll keep that in mind. See that you do. Charles gestured to Jennifer. Show him out. Felix walked through those pristine halls feeling Charles's eyes boring into his back, rode the elevator down with Jennifer's silent assessment, and stepped into the Monday morning sunshine with the certain knowledge that he'd just made a powerful enemy. His phone buzzed immediately. Unknown number. He answered carefully. Felix Hahn? Different voice this time. Male, professional, vaguely threatening. Who is this? Someone who'd like to discuss your recent investment activities. Meet me at Riverside Coffee, booth in the back, 1 hour. Come alone. The call ended. Felix stood on the sidewalk watching traffic flow past, his mind racing through possibilities. The Everett's moving faster than expected? A different player entering the game? Law enforcement? He should ignore it. Walk away. Disappear into the crowd. But that had never been an option. Felix checked his watch, memorized the time, and started walking toward Riverside. Riverside Coffee was exactly the kind of place that would gentrify hard in 5 years. Exposed brick, mismatched furniture, the lingering smell of old cigarettes fighting with fresh espresso. Right now it was just a dive that served dock workers and day laborers. The booth in the back held a man in his 40s, gray suit that didn't quite fit the atmosphere, eyes that had seen things. He gestured for Felix to sit. Coffee? The man offered. Who are you? Call me Marcus. He slid a business card across the table, no company name, just a phone number. I work for people who notice when teenagers start making Wall Street caliber trades. Felix's stomach dropped. SEC? Nothing so official. Marcus smiled thinly. Let's just say my employers have an interest in talented individuals who display unusual market insights. I'm not interested in whatever you're selling. You haven't heard the offer yet. Don't need to. I work alone. Marcus leaned back, studying Felix with the intensity of someone reading a balance sheet. You met with Charles Everett this morning. Turned down a job offer. That took either courage or stupidity. How do you know that? Because I was in the building. Because my employers make it their business to know when players like Everett take interest in emerging talents. He pulled out a thin folder, set it on the table. Felix Hahn. Born to Minji Han, single mother, father unknown. Grew up in the Southside District. Mediocre grades, no disciplinary issues, no indication of financial genius. Until 3 months ago. The folder contained copies of Felix's trades, dates, amounts, securities. Someone had been watching longer than the Everetts. April 18, Marcus continued, you purchased Bitcoin at 263 through a third party. Sold at the bottom, bought back at 50. Timing so perfect it triggered algorithmic alerts. He flipped a page. Immunex purchase 6 weeks pre-approval. Apple earnings play executed through a proxy. Riverside property acquired 1 week before announcement. Total return, approximately 4,000% in 12 weeks. Felix's mouth went dry. So that's impossible without insider information, algorithmic trading systems, or... Marcus paused, weighing words carefully, extraordinary predictive capabilities. The way he said predictive sent ice through Felix's veins. Did they know? Could they possibly know? I do research, Felix said. I told Everett the same thing. Everett's an amateur. He thinks you're getting tips from your mother's laundromat. Marcus smiled. My employers are more creative thinkers. They're wondering if you're using something more interesting. Like what? Quantum computing algorithms. AI prediction models. Insider networks we haven't identified. Marcus leaned forward. Or maybe you're just the luckiest kid alive. Either way, my employers would like to offer you a partnership. Real capital. Professional infrastructure. And most importantly, protection from people like Charles Everett who don't like being beaten. In exchange for what? Your methodology. Whatever gives you your edge, we want access to it. And if I say no? Marcus's smile disappeared. Then you're on your own against every player in this city who sees you as either a threat or a resource. Everett will keep digging. Other firms will notice your pattern. Eventually someone figures out your angle, or the SEC starts asking questions you can't answer. He tapped the folder. You're 18 with 76,000 in assets and a winning streak that shouldn't exist. How long before that becomes a problem? Too long. The answer was, not long at all. Felix stood. I need time to think. You have 24 hours. After that, my employers consider you a solo actor and adjust their strategy accordingly. Marcus handed him the business card. Call the number. Don't wait too long. Felix walked out into afternoon sun that felt too bright, his mind spinning through implications. Two different groups circling, both wanting the same thing, his edge, his knowledge, his future. Give it up or get crushed. He needed to think. Needed to plan. His phone buzzed. Daniel, dude, we need to talk. Someone accessed my laptop remotely. They copied files. Felix broke into a run. Daniel's apartment was chaos, drawers open, papers scattered, his laptop in pieces on the floor. Daniel sat on the couch looking sick, his father pacing behind him radiating fury. They took everything, Daniel said. Trading records, account information, our strategy documents. Everything. When? Last night while I was sleeping. Woke up to find my laptop hot, files accessed remotely. He looked at Felix with genuine fear. Who are these people? Mr. Park stopped pacing. You two are going to tell me exactly what you've been doing. Right now. No bullshit. Felix met Daniel's eyes across the room. His partner. His friend. The person he dragged into this because he couldn't execute alone. Now Daniel's father was involved, their files were compromised, and the walls were closing in. We've been trading stocks, Felix said carefully. Making investments based on research. Research? Mr. Park's voice could have cut steel. Research doesn't result in professionals breaking into my home and accessing my son's computer. Research doesn't bring men in suits asking questions about business partnerships. What the hell have you gotten Daniel into? The question hung heavy. Felix could lie, deflect, protect his secrets. Or he could trust the only two people who'd helped him build this second chance. He chose honesty. Part of it, anyway. I've been making trades that are too successful, Felix said. It's attracted attention from some powerful people who want to know how I'm doing it. They think I have insider information or some kind of algorithm. They want access to it. Do you? Have insider information? No. Just good instincts and a lot of research. Mr. Park stared at him for 10 long seconds. Bullshit. No 18-year-old has instincts good enough to make 4,000% returns in 12 weeks. He crossed his arms. I'm calling the police. This whole thing ends now before Daniel gets hurt. Wait, Daniel stood. Dad, we haven't done anything illegal. Yet. You haven't done anything illegal yet. But people who break into houses aren't concerned with legality. Mr. Park pulled out his phone. I'm ending this before it goes further. Felix's mind raced. Police meant questions, investigations, scrutiny. His trades would get flagged. His assets frozen. Everything he'd built, the second chance, his mother's future, the empire he was constructing, it would all collapse. If you call the police, Felix said quietly, they'll investigate our trades. They'll see the pattern. Even if we haven't done anything illegal, it'll look suspicious enough that they'll freeze our accounts while they investigate. That could take months. Years. Everything Daniel and I have made, his share included, will be locked up indefinitely. Mr. Park's thumb hovered over the phone. How much has Daniel made? Daniel swallowed hard. $3,400 so far. That's my 60-40 split. $3,400? Mr. Park's expression shifted, still angry, but now calculating. That was 3 months of income for his small web design business. In 12 weeks? Yes. And you want to throw that away to involve the police? Felix pressed. Or we can handle this ourselves. Cut ties with me if you want, but let Daniel keep his money and walk away clean. Mr. Park looked between them, his son, who'd stumbled into something way over his head, and Felix, who was either a genius or a con artist. Then he slowly lowered the phone. Daniel's out. Whatever you're doing, he's done. You two close out whatever accounts you have together, split the money, and never speak again. His eyes locked onto Felix. And if anyone comes near my family again, I don't care what it costs, I will burn your entire operation down. Felix nodded. Fair enough. Daniel opened his mouth to protest, caught his father's expression, and closed it. They spent the next hour liquidating their joint positions, Tesla shares, remaining Bitcoin, cash positions. Total came to $4,700 for Daniel's share after splits. Daniel walked Felix to the door. I'm sorry, man. My dad is protecting you. He's right too. Felix gripped Daniel's shoulder. Thanks for everything. You helped me build something real. What are you going to do now? Keep going. Alone this time. Felix. Daniel's voice dropped. How are you doing this? Really? I've watched you make perfect trades for 3 months. Nobody's that good. Nobody's that lucky. Felix met his friend's eyes and saw the question beneath the question. The suspicion that had been building since that first Bitcoin call. The impossible accuracy. The unshakable confidence. You wouldn't believe me if I told you, Felix said. Try me. For a moment Felix almost did. Almost told him everything, the knife, the death, the 12 years of memories, the second chance. But Daniel had a family to protect. Knowing the truth would make him a target. Maybe someday, Felix said. Stay safe, Daniel. He walked out knowing he'd just lost his only partner, his technical support, and his buffer against attention. He was alone now. Completely exposed. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Tick-tock, Felix. 23 hours. Marcus. The mysterious employer. The choice that wasn't really a choice. Felix made it 3 blocks before the black sedan pulled up beside him. Back door opened. Charles Everett sat inside. Get in. We need to talk. Every instinct screamed run. But running wouldn't solve anything. Felix got in. The sedan pulled into traffic. Charles didn't speak for 5 blocks, just watched the city roll past like a man counting his possessions. You've had a busy day, Charles finally said. Meeting with Marcus Chen. Very busy. Felix's blood went cold. You know him? I know of him. Marcus works for a group called Helix Capital. There. Let's say they operate in interesting spaces. Algorithmic trading. Predictive analytics. Some less savory ventures. Charles turned to face Felix. They're not people you want to do business with. Neither are you, apparently. Charles actually smiled at that. Fair. But here's the difference, I operate within systems. Legal frameworks, market regulations, business norms. Helix operates in the shadows. They don't offer partnerships, Felix. They offer dependencies. Once you're in, you don't get out. And you're telling me this out of the goodness of your heart? I'm telling you this because you're about to make a mistake that costs you everything you've built. Charles pulled out his phone, showed Felix a photo. This is Marcus Chen's last partner. Brilliant quant trader, discovered some kind of market inefficiency, made millions. Helix offered him a deal. He took it. Charles swiped to another photo, same man, hospital bed, barely recognizable. 6 months later he tried to leave. They hospitalized him. Took his methodology. Left him with nothing. Felix stared at the photos, his stomach churning. You beat me to Riverside, Charles continued, pocketing the phone. That pissed me off. I sent people to investigate you, figure out your angle. But Marcus moving on you changed the equation. Whatever your secret is, I don't want Helix getting it. They're too dangerous to have that kind of edge. So what do you want? Same thing I wanted this morning, a partnership. But on different terms. Charles leaned forward. You work with me, share your methodology, and I provide protection. Real protection. Legal teams. Security. Market leverage. Helix won't touch you because touching you means touching Everett Capital Partners. In exchange for my edge. In exchange for keeping you alive. Charles's expression hardened. You think you're playing games, Felix? Small stakes. Flip some cameras, buy some property, make some trades. But you've attracted attention from players who don't see you as competition, they see you as a resource to exploit or eliminate. You can't fight them alone. You need someone bigger in your corner. The sedan stopped outside Felix's house. His mother's car sat in the driveway. Kitchen light on. Safe. For now. 24 hours, Charles said. That's how long until Marcus calls you demanding an answer. You tell him no, you better have protection lined up. You tell him yes, you better accept that you've sold your soul. He handed Felix a business card, different from this morning's, direct cell number. Call me when you decide. But decide fast. Felix got out. The sedan pulled away. He stood on his sidewalk watching his mother's shadow move past the kitchen window, feeling the weight of impossible choices crushing down on him. 2 predators circling. Both offering protection in exchange for everything he had. Both willing to destroy him if he refused. He'd died once with $12 in his pocket. This time he'd rebuilt his life to 76,000 and created enemies powerful enough to take it all away. The knife had been simpler. Felix walked inside to find his mother at the stove, humming while she cooked. She turned, smiled, completely unaware her son was drowning. Hungry, baby? I made your favorite. Felix forced a smile. Starving, Mom. He sat at their small kitchen table, ate dumplings he could barely taste, and made plans for a war he couldn't afford to lose. His phone buzzed twice. First message, 22 hours. M. Second message, call me. Please. I can help. CE Felix deleted both messages and started calculating how to survive the next day. Felix didn't sleep. At 11 p.m., he sat at his desk with energy drinks and desperation, building something that would either save his life or end it. His encrypted file stayed closed, all that perfect future knowledge locked away where no one could find it. Instead, he opened Python and started coding. The algorithm had to be good enough to be believable, but not so good it seemed impossible. A sweet spot between genius and plausibility that would satisfy both predators without revealing his real edge. He started with basic technical analysis, moving averages, RSI indicators, MACD crossovers. The stuff every amateur trader learned from YouTube tutorials. Then he layered in sentiment analysis, scraping Twitter and news feeds for keyword patterns. Volume anomalies. Options flow analysis. Sector rotation models. Nothing revolutionary. Nothing that required future knowledge. Just a very sophisticated aggregation of publicly available data, presented like it was his secret weapon. By 2 a.m. he had a working prototype. By 4 a.m. he'd backtested it against historical data from 2010 to 2013, deliberately choosing a time frame where certain patterns held. The results looked impressive, 38% annual returns with reasonable drawdowns. Good enough to justify a smart trader's success. Not good enough to explain his perfect timing. That gap was the lie he'd have to sell. Felix named it Phantom Quant v1.0, created documentation that made it sound more complex than it was, and built a simple web interface that output trade signals with pseudo-scientific confidence scores. The real brilliance was in the presentation. He included academic references to behavioral finance, market microstructure theory, information diffusion models. Made it sound like he'd stumbled onto something legitimately valuable, not magical foresight, just a really well-designed system. At 6 a.m. his mother knocked on the door. "Baby? Did you sleep at all?" "Couldn't sleep, Mom. Big project." She opened the door, concern etched on her face. "You look terrible. What's wrong?" "Everything." His life was balanced on a knife edge between two groups who'd crush him without hesitation. He'd lost his only partner. He was about to lie to dangerous people using a fake algorithm that might not survive scrutiny. Just stressed about college applications, he lied. Trying to get everything perfect. His mother crossed the room and hugged him, one of those mom hugs that felt like safety even when nothing was safe. "You work too hard. You know that? You're 18. You should be out with friends, having fun." "I will, Mom. Promise. Just need to finish this." After she left, Felix stared at his reflection in the dark window. 30-year-old mind in an 18-year-old body. He'd died once and come back with perfect knowledge of the future. Now he was gambling everything on a sophisticated lie. His phone buzzed. 7:03 a.m. "Marcus, 16 hours. Hope you're making the right choice." Felix didn't respond. Instead, he pulled up Charles Everett's direct number and made the call that would set everything in motion. They met at a private office building Charles owned in the financial district, neutral ground, no company logos, just expensive furniture and surveillance cameras. Charles sat across from Felix with Jennifer Torres standing behind him, tablet in hand. "You have something to show me?" Charles asked. Felix opened his laptop, turned it to face them. "Phantom Quant v1.0. A predictive trading algorithm I've been developing for the past year." Charles's eyebrows rose. "You built a trading algorithm?" "Yes. At 17. I started with basic technical indicators. Read every academic paper on market prediction I could find. Taught myself Python, machine learning, natural language processing." Felix kept his voice steady, confident. The lie had to land perfectly. "It's not perfect. But it identifies inefficiencies in information diffusion, how news propagates through markets, how sentiment shifts create exploitable windows." Jennifer leaned forward, studying the screen. "Show us the backtests." Felix pulled up his carefully crafted results. 38% annual return from 2010 to 2013. Sharp ratio of 2.1. Max drawdown of 18%. "Those are strong numbers," Charles said carefully. "But they don't explain your actual performance. You've made over 4,000% in 12 weeks. Because I supplemented the algorithm with discretionary trades. Used it as a filter, not a decision maker." Felix clicked through screens showing various signals. Immunex, the algorithm flagged unusual options activity 6 weeks before approval. "I researched the company, saw FDA timeline patterns, made the bet." Riverside, sentiment analysis showed unusual interest in redevelopment zones. "I investigated on the ground, found the opportunity. It was plausible. Almost true. The algorithm really would have flagged some of those patterns. Just not with enough conviction to justify his perfect timing." Charles studied the laptop for a long moment. You're telling me a teenager built something institutional quants spend millions developing. I'm telling you I built something that works well enough, then used my brain to fill in the gaps. Felix met his eyes. You wanted to know my edge. This is it. Not insider trading. Not luck. Just a good tool and better judgment. Jennifer tapped her tablet. Can we test it? Run it on current market data? This was the moment. The test that could expose everything. Of course, Felix said, keeping his voice level. But understand, it's a probability model, not a crystal ball. It identifies potential opportunities. Doesn't guarantee them. Charles nodded slowly. Show us what it's saying right now. Felix pulled up the interface, heart hammering against his ribs. The algorithm ran through its analysis, scanning news feeds, calculating sentiment scores, identifying volume anomalies. After 30 seconds it output 3 trade recommendations. Apple, neutral, confidence, 62% AMZN, bullish, confidence, 71%. GE, bearish, confidence, 58%. Standard technical signals based on real patterns. Nothing groundbreaking. Nothing that would seem too good. Amazon bullish, Jennifer Reed. Why? Cloud services momentum, Felix said, pulling up the underlying data. AWS is gaining enterprise customers faster than the market's pricing in. Algorithms picking up unusual call activity in September contracts. It was true. AWS really was growing. Amazon really would continue climbing. The algorithm was just confirming what Felix already knew from living through it. Charles leaned back. I want my quant team to examine this. Full audit. If it's real, we can scale it with proper capital and infrastructure. There's a condition, Felix said. The temperature in the room dropped 5 degrees. You're in no position to make conditions, Charles said quietly. Hear me out. Felix closed the laptop. You want access to Phantom Quant. Fine. But I maintain control of the core algorithm. Your team can verify it works, can trade based on its signals, but the actual methodology stays proprietary to me. I'm not handing over the source code. That's not how partnerships work. It is if you want Helix Capital to stay away from this tech. Felix held Charles's gaze. Marcus offered me a deal. Unlimited capital, professional infrastructure, everything I need. I turned him down because I didn't want to lose control. But if you demand the same thing, full access, complete transparency, then I might as well take his offer. It was a bluff. Felix had no intention of partnering with Helix. But Charles didn't know that. Jennifer glanced at her boss. Charles's jaw tightened fractionally, the only sign Felix's gambit had landed. You've got balls, Charles finally said. Stupid balls, but balls. He stood, walked to the window overlooking the financial district. Here's my counteroffer. My team audits the algorithm. We verify it produces legitimate signals. If it passes review, I invest $200,000 into a joint trading account. You manage it using Phantom Quant. We split profits 70-30, my favor, since it's my capital. You maintain control of the core code, but you train one of my analysts on how to interpret the signals. 60-40 split, Felix countered. I'm bringing the intellectual property. 70-30 or I call Marcus and tell him you're peddling fake algorithms. Felix's stomach clenched. Could Charles tell it was fake? Was this a test? No. Charles wanted to believe it was real. Wanted to own a piece of something valuable before Helix got it. He was negotiating from greed, not suspicion. Fine, Felix said. 70-30. When do your quants want to audit it? Tomorrow. 9 a.m. Charles turned from the window. And Felix? If this turns out to be smoke and mirrors, if you're running some kind of con, I will destroy you. Personally. Legally. Financially. Every way possible. Understand? I understand. Good. Charles gestured to Jennifer. Set up the audit. Get Marcus on the phone. I want him to know Felix is under Everett capital protection as of now. Jennifer made notes on her tablet. Felix felt the trap close around him, not captured, but committed. He'd bought time and protection, but at the cost of having to maintain a lie that sophisticated quants would examine with electron microscopes. The algorithm had to work. At least well enough. At least for now. Felix spent the afternoon preparing for the audit like a student cramming for finals that determined his life. He stress-tested every component, verified every calculation, made sure the documentation was airtight. The algorithm was real. It just wasn't good enough to explain his success. That gap, between what Phantom Quant could do and what Felix had actually accomplished, was the lie he had to obscure with confidence and technical jargon. At 4 p.m. his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered cautiously. Felix Han. Marcus Chen's voice, colder than their coffee shop meeting. I hear you've made a choice. Charles Everett called you? Charles Everett warned me off you. Said you're under his protection. Said you're bringing proprietary technology to Everett Capital. Marcus laughed without humor. That's disappointing, Felix. I thought you were smarter than that. I made the choice that felt right. You made the choice that felt safe. There's a difference. Background noise on Marcus's end, traffic, voices, the ambient sound of the city. Let me give you some advice, since we won't be working together. Charles Everett is a predator. He smiles, shakes hands, acts like a businessman. But he's a shark. And the moment your algorithm stops performing, the moment you're not useful anymore, he'll eat you alive. I'll take my chances. Will you? Because here's what's going to happen. Charles's quants will audit your system tomorrow. They'll find it's good, not great, just good. Solid technical analysis, decent pattern recognition, nothing revolutionary. And Charles will wonder how that explains your perfect track record. He'll start asking questions. Digging deeper. And when he figures out you've been lying. Marcus let the threat hang. I haven't lied, Felix said. The algorithm is real. But it's not your real edge, is it? There's something else. Something you're not telling anyone. Marcus's voice dropped. My employers are patient, Felix. Charles will burn you the moment you stop being profitable. When that happens, and it will happen, call me. We'll still be interested. But the terms won't be as generous. The call ended. Felix sat in his bedroom staring at his phone, Marcus's words echoing in his head. The man was right about one thing, the algorithm couldn't sustain his winning streak. Eventually the gaps would show. Eventually Charles would realize Phantom Quant was sophisticated camouflage for something unexplainable. Felix needed insurance. A backup plan for when the lie started cracking. He pulled up his encrypted files and started documenting future events in a new format, not as a timeline, but as algorithmic predictions. Made it look like Phantom Quant had flagged them as high-probability scenarios. Tesla Model S launch, frame it as automotive disruption analysis. Facebook mobile ad revenue spike, frame it as social media monetization patterns. Twitter IPO, frame it as platform maturity indicators. Every piece of future knowledge translated into language that supported the algorithm narrative. It was exhausting. Every moment he had to maintain multiple layers of deception, remember which lies he'd told to whom, keep his real edge hidden while appearing to reveal it. His mother called him down for dinner at 6 p.m. They ate quietly, pot roast and vegetables, her Thursday ritual. She kept glancing at him with concern. Baby, you're stressed. I can see it. What's going on? Just school stuff, Mom. College applications, trying to figure out my future. You're 18. You don't have to figure everything out right now. If she only knew. He'd died at 30 and come back to save her. Had rebuilt his life to $76,000. Had attracted the attention of billionaires and shadow organizations. Had built a fake algorithm to survive predators who'd kill him if they learned the truth. I know, Mom. Just want to make you proud. She reached across the table and squeezed his hand. Baby, you make me proud every day. Just by being you. All this other stuff, money, success, college, it doesn't matter if you're not happy. But it did matter. In another timeline she'd died in a county hospital because he couldn't afford better. Died exhausted and broke because he'd failed her. This time would be different. This time he'd give her everything. Even if it meant lying to everyone else. After dinner Felix returned to his room and found an email waiting. Jennifer Torres, subject line, audit preparation. Felix. Tomorrow's audit will involve code review by our senior quant, Dr. Rachel Kim, live trading signals versus market data, statistical validation of claimed performance. Risk assessment and position sizing logic. Please bring laptop with full algorithm access, all documentation and backtests. Explanation of data sources and update frequencies. The audit will take 3 to 4 hours. Dr. Kim is thorough. Be prepared to answer technical questions. Jennifer. Felix read it 3 times, anxiety building with each pass. Dr. Rachel Kim was a legend in quant circles, MIT PhD, former Goldman Sachs managing director, papers published in leading journals. She'd built algorithmic trading systems worth billions. She would see through Phantom Quant in 30 seconds. Unless Felix was very, very good. He spent the next 6 hours reinforcing the algorithm's foundation, adding layers of complexity that looked impressive but didn't change the core logic. Threw in some machine learning buzzwords, neural networks, gradient boosting, ensemble methods. Made the documentation dense enough that it would take hours to fully parse. The strategy was simple: bury any weaknesses in enough technical sophistication that Dr. Kim would have to give him credit for the attempt, even if the results weren't revolutionary. At 2 a.m. Felix finally stopped typing and let himself breathe. Tomorrow would determine everything. Either Phantom Quant would pass as legitimate, or his empire would collapse before it really began. Tuesday morning Felix wore his best clothes, still thrift store, but pressed and professional. He arrived at Everett Capital at 8:45 a.m. carrying his laptop like it contained nuclear codes. Jennifer met him in the lobby. "Dr. Kim is ready. Follow me." The audit room was all glass walls and whiteboards, designed for transparency. Dr. Kim sat at the head of a conference table, early 50s, sharp suit, eyes that had calculated billion-dollar trades. Two junior analysts flanked her, laptops open. Felix Han. Dr. Kim stood, shook his hand with a grip that meant business. "I've heard interesting things about you. Sit. Let's see what you've built." Felix sat. Opened his laptop. Every nerve in his body screamed danger. "Phantom Quant v1.0, he said, turning the screen to face her. "A predictive trading system based on multi-factor analysis and information diffusion modeling." Dr. Kim studied the interface for 5 seconds, then looked at him. "Walk me through the architecture." Felix launched into his prepared explanation: data ingestion layer, sentiment analysis engine, technical indicator calculator, probability weighting system, signal aggregation. He spoke confidently, using terms he'd learned from the academic papers he'd read obsessively over the past day. Dr. Kim listened without expression. When he finished, she leaned forward. "Show me the code." Felix's pulse spiked. "The core algorithm is proprietary. I'm not asking to copy it. I'm asking to verify it does what you claim." Her eyes didn't blink. "If you want Charles Everett to invest $200,000 based on your system, I need to see it actually works. Not just trust your documentation." There was no escape. Felix opened the source code. Dr. Kim pulled his laptop toward her and started reading. Line by line. Function by function. Her face remained neutral but her fingers tapped the table, a tell Felix recognized from poker players. She was calculating something. After 10 minutes she looked up. "This is clever." Felix's heart hammered. "Thank you. But it's not revolutionary." She spun the laptop back to him. "You've built a solid multi-factor model with some interesting sentiment analysis. The information diffusion angle is creative. But these components aren't new. Firms have been using variations of this for years. I didn't claim it was revolutionary. Just that it works." "Does it?" Dr. Kim gestured to one of her analysts. "Pull up market data from the past month. Let's test this live." The analyst projected real-time data onto a wall screen: stock prices, volume, news feeds, social media sentiment. Dr. Kim pointed at the data. "Run your algorithm. Show me what signals it generates right now." Felix's hands trembled slightly as he initialized Phantom Quant. The system pulled data, ran calculations, output results. TSLA, bullish, confidence, 68% FB, neutral, confidence, 54%. NFLX, bullish, confidence, 71% GLD, bearish, confidence, 63%. Dr. Kim studied the signals. Tesla bullish. Why? Unusual options activity. Social media sentiment shifting positive. Technical indicators showing momentum reversal. Felix pulled up the underlying data. Model sees these patterns converging. And if I told you Tesla just missed production targets last week and analysts are bearish? I'd say the market's overreacting. Production issues are temporary. Long-term thesis remains intact. Felix kept his voice steady. The algorithm identifies when sentiment diverges from fundamentals. That's where opportunities are. Dr. Kim leaned back, studying him with intensity that felt like X-rays. "You're either very smart or very lucky. Let's find out which." She spent the next 2 hours stress testing the algorithm. Ran it against historical crashes. Fed it fake data to test error handling. Asked probability questions that required deep understanding of statistical modeling. Felix answered every question, drew on his 30 years of market experience wrapped in 18-year-old confidence. He wasn't defending Phantom Quant's code, he was defending his thesis that good tools plus human judgment could beat markets. Finally, at 11:30 a.m., Dr. Kim closed her laptop. "My assessment," she said, looking at Felix, "is that you've built a legitimate trading tool. Not groundbreaking, but solid. The real question is whether your claimed returns came from the algorithm or from something else." Felix's throat went dry. "What do you mean?" I mean, your backtests show 38% annual returns. But you've made 4,000% in 12 weeks. That gap is enormous. She leaned forward. Either you're the best discretionary trader I've ever met, or you got phenomenally lucky, or there's another variable you're not disclosing. The room went silent. Jennifer watched from the corner. The analyst stopped typing. Everything balanced on Felix's next words. The algorithm identifies opportunities, Felix said carefully. But I choose which ones to take and how aggressively to size them. Immunex, Phantom Quant flagged it as medium probability. I did additional research, saw the FDA timeline was actually very favorable, bet bigger than the model suggested. Riverside, the algorithm showed unusual interest in redevelopment zones. I walked the neighborhood, talked to locals, found the specific opportunity. So you're saying you're better than your own algorithm? I'm saying the algorithm is a filter. I'm the decision maker. Dr. Kim studied him for a long moment, then turned to Jennifer. My recommendation is conditional approval. The algorithm is legitimate. Felix's judgment appears sound based on his track record. But I want weekly performance reviews. If the system stops working, we cut exposure immediately. Jennifer made notes. I'll inform Mr. Everett. Dr. Kim stood, extended her hand to Felix. Congratulations. You just convinced a former Goldman MD that a teenager built something valuable. She held his grip firm. Don't make me regret it. Felix shook her hand, feeling like he'd just defused a bomb with 30 seconds left on the timer. Charles Everett's office, 2 p.m. Felix sat across the desk while Charles reviewed Dr. Kim's report on an iPad. She says you're legitimate, Charles said. Also says you're hiding something. I'm not. Everyone's hiding something, Felix. Question is whether what you're hiding matters. Charles set down the iPad. 200,000. 70-30 split. You run the account using your algorithm and your judgment. Weekly reports to Jennifer. Any trade over 50,000 requires approval. Deal? It was worse terms than Felix wanted, but better than being destroyed by Helix or crushed by Charles's legal team. Deal. Charles pulled out a contract, slid it across the desk. Sign. Felix read through it quickly. Standard investment partnership agreement, weighted heavily in Charles's favor. Clauses about confidentiality, non-compete, dispute resolution. Nothing unexpected except one section. In the event of consistent underperformance, defined as 3 consecutive months below 5% returns, Everett Capital Partners reserves the right to assume full control of trading strategy and methodology. A trapdoor. If Phantom Quant couldn't maintain impossible returns, Charles could seize control. Take the algorithm, examine it completely, discover the truth. Felix had maybe 3 months before the lie started showing cracks. He signed anyway. 3 months was enough time to execute his next plays, build enough capital to survive independently, and maybe find a way out of this mess. Charles countersigned, handed him a check for $200,000 made out to Han Everett Trading LLC. Open an account, start trading, make me money. Charles leaned back. And Felix? I'm protecting you from Marcus and Helix. But that protection is conditional on results. Don't forget that. I won't. Felix walked out of Everett Capital with a check for $200,000 and a timeline of 3 months before everything collapsed. His phone buzzed immediately. Unknown number. He answered. Congratulations on your partnership. Marcus Chen's voice dripped with false warmth. Charles Everett is a lucky man. How did you? I know everything that happens in this city's financial sector. Including when teenagers sign deals with billionaires. Marcus paused. When it falls apart, Felix, and it will fall apart, call me. The offer stands. But like I said, terms won't be as generous. The call ended. Felix stood on the sidewalk outside Everett Capital, clutching a check worth more than his mother made in 4 years, surrounded by enemies on all sides, maintaining a lie that sophisticated quants had nearly exposed. He'd bought time. But time was running out faster than anyone knew. His only advantage was that nobody, not Charles, not Marcus, not Dr. Kim, could imagine the truth, that Felix Han had died in an alley and come back with 12 years of perfect knowledge. Phantom Quant was smoke and mirrors. The real algorithm was Felix's memory. And he'd just bet everything that nobody would figure that out before he could secure his empire. 3 months. 90 days to turn 200,000 into enough money that he'd never need protection from predators like Charles Everett. Felix looked at the check one more time, then started walking. He had work to do. Felix opened the Han Everett Trading LLC account Wednesday morning with shaking hands and $200,000 he couldn't afford to lose. The weight of it pressed against his chest like a physical thing, not just the money, but the expectations, the scrutiny, the ticking clock.